The playoffs start next week, but for the Rams, it starts this week. Hello, everybody. Terry Bennett here on the Jack Powell Ford Mineral Wells Football Show, right here on L4 Media. As Mineral Wells lose a tough one last week against a really good Eagle Mountain team, 35-30. But you got to be impressed with that comeback. Down 21-3 at the half. You already know, basically. I mean, yeah, if you'd have beat Eagle Mountain, that'd have been great, and that would have solidified a playoff. But you knew in the end of the day, it came down to beating Burke Burnett in the last week of the season. It had been really easy for everybody on the team, players and coaches, to pack it in and, hey, let's get ready for next week. Instead, they make a valiant comeback. They actually had the ball at the end of the game, come up just short, 35-30. But I think a really good stepping stone going into this week and the win, or you're going home. I mean, again, this is the playoffs. Everybody else gets 6 weeks of the playoffs. Hey, if you're a Mineral Wells football fan, you get an extra week of playoffs for free this year. I want to thank our sponsor, Jack Powell Ford. You can find them online at jackpowellford.com. For all your new or pre-owned vehicle choices, all you have to go do is go to their website, and you can get financed online. You can find the vehicle you want. You can know what you want without even going to the dealership. But again, I always say you might as well go and look at it in person as well. 1418 Southeast 1st Street, right there in Mineral Wells, is where the dealership is located. Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Closed on Sundays. We appreciate them for being the title sponsor for the second year in a row, and hope to have them in the future as well. All right, well, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk to the head coach of the Rams, Coach Cody Worrell, about the playoff game. Well, okay, last district game against Burke Burnett, right here on the Mineral Wells Football Show on L4 Media. Here at L4 Media, we talk high school football, 4A, 3A, and 2A in Texas. We talk East Texas sports. We talk NFL, guy talk, movie, and booze. We also talk wrestling and so much more. And you can see it all on our YouTube channel at L4 Media Company. Like and subscribe. Terry Bennett back here on the Mineral Wells Football Show, now joined, as always, by the head coach of the Rams, Coach Cody Worrell. And, Coach, you know, for everybody else, the playoffs begin next week. For the Rams, it's really last week and this week, depending on how last week would win, of course. But for sure, win and you go in against the Burke Burnett team that you keep telling people might be 1-8, but they're a lot better than the record.
Yeah, they really are, man. I'm telling you, they've gotten better and better each and every week since the start of the season, and their coaches have made some adjustments with personnel that's really benefited them. Going into district and towards the end of the season, man, they've done a fantastic job. And man, I'm telling you, I know what their record looks like, but they ain't a normal 1-8 team. They're very talented, and they do a good job, and they're very sound in what they do. They just kind of, come on the short end of the stick a couple of times this year in close ball games and in games where they could have easily won, but they ended up lost. And I say easily as in they were in the game and we're a play away from winning the game. Against good football teams. And so now it's a big game. It's a big game for them. It's a big game for us. And like you said, it's essentially a playoff game. The winner stays and gets to play another week. The loser, is done. And so our kids are fired up and our community's fired up for the big game, and hopefully we get a W tonight.
And I know last week was a loss, and the reason I say that continues is the playoff is because the way y'all played and hung around with an Eagle Mountain Knights team that's going to probably play a few rounds, I was really impressed with. I thought the way y'all played last week was one of the best losses y'all have had.
No, for sure. I was proud of our kids. We were down 21-3 at half, and man came out and played a really, really solid half of football. And, we played decent in the first half. We just had some turnovers and some penalties that didn't go our way. And, it's part of it. But, our kids could have shut it down at halftime, and they didn't. They came out in the second half and started fighting and made it a ball game. Got within a score twice. And, man, we just couldn't execute when needed. And kudos to them. That's a really good football team. Coach Mullins does a fantastic job. And, I was proud of the way our kids fought in the second half.
How has practice been this week?
It's been good. we took last week as a positive. Couldn't turn it into a negative, and especially this late in the year, and knowing the fact that we've got to win this next game to get in, and so it's been good. Our kids have had a little extra pep in their step, knowing that, I mean, especially those seniors. The seniors know that if this could be their last football game, so you've got to play in practice. You got to play in practice like the best you've ever had, and we've had a pretty good week of practice, and looking forward to tonight.
You talk about y'all were down 21-3, and the players didn't quit, and the coaches didn't quit. And it would have been real easy as a coaching staff, and I think most people would have understood if y'all just said, okay, you know what, let's just kind of pack it in tonight. Let's worry about next week because that's what we really need. But then you gain that confidence for almost coming back against a good team.
Yeah, we were, we knew in the first half that, for us, two of their touchdowns came on short fields, very short fields. They had a punt return, a big punt return that got them down inside the red zone. Then we threw a pick inside the red zone, and that's how two of their touchdowns came. And we were moving the ball pretty well offensively. We just weren't scoring, and that's what we said at halftime is, we just keep doing what we're doing and make a couple adjustments here and there, and just see what happens. And man, our kids came out with their hair on fire in the second half and just continued to play.
So what has the message been to the kids this week during practice?
Beat Burke. We got to beat Burke. We got to beat Burke to get in. And like I said earlier, man, just, I've told our seniors and our team, I said, and listen, I mean, we got to have a great week of practice, and they have. They've done a good job of flying around, and our scout teams have done a great job of giving us a good look, and we just got to limit our mistakes and go out there and just have fun and play football.
Well, and you and I have talked about this all year with all the injuries and everything. The resiliency of this team, in my opinion, has been just very, very amazing.
Yeah, no, our kids, we've had kids that have stepped up in some roles where they didn't think that they were going to have to. And man, that's just a learning point for not only players, for coaches as well, man. You have these great ideas about what your personnel is going to be and what you're going to do offensively, what you're going to do defensively. And, an injury too just completely diminishes that plan. And so it's back to the drawing board that it takes kids stepping up into roles that they weren't quite, thought that they were going to be in at the start of the year. And they've done a great job. And I know the win-loss record or the column hasn't really reflected that, but man, I've been super proud of the way our team has stepped up and gone about those roles in a different way.
All right, last question. What do you think is going to be the biggest key to beat Burke-Burnett tonight?
I think, whoever can have less turnovers in this game is probably going to be the winner of the game. They have a really good, their skill kids are unbelievable. They really are. They got a big, huge running back that also plays defensive tackle, if that tells you anything, how physical of a runner he is. They're just really good on both sides of the ball. And like I said, we've just got to go out there and execute and limit our mistakes and limit our turnovers. And I really think that the turnovers will be the difference in the game.
Thanks to Coach Warl for being here on the Jack Powell Ford Mineral Wells Football Show. Thanks to Jack Powell Ford for sponsoring the Jack Powell Ford Mineral Wells Football Show. Go to jackpowellford.com for all your car and parts needs. I don't talk about that. They also have full service and parts. Give them a call for service, 940-654-2708. For parts, 940-654-2745. Or again, go online to jackpowellford.com. So, I mean, again, cliche, but this is it. This is your playoffs. You're hosting a playoff game against a really solid Burke-Burnett team. Last year, I think this game was 27-20 Mineral Wells. But it was back and forth early. I think it's going to be the same way. I think Mineral Wells wins, and I actually think Mineral Wells might win by a couple touchdowns, but it's not going to be easy. I think this is going to be a back and forth game, as he was talking about. They have a running back that also can play defensive tackle, a really solid quarterback in Brody Boyd. Patrick Williams has done a really good job for Burke-Burnett. I've gotten to talk about Burke-Burnett multiple times because we also do the Brock Coaches Show. So hearing it from two coaches that I respect in Cody Worrell and, of course, the Brock Eagle head coach Billy Mathis. You know, this is a Burke Burnett team that is 1-8, but they play a lot better. And if you look at their non-district schedule, they lose to Vernon, playoff team in 3A. They lose to Henrietta, a team that just upset Holiday last week and will be a playoff team. They lose to Iowa Park. That's an outlier. Iowa Park's not a great team. They lose to Holiday, a playoff team. They lose to Jacksboro, a playoff team. And then they lose to, of course, Graham, Eagle Mountain, and Brock, all three playoff teams. So their resume is pretty strong, just as, you know, Mineral Wells is. Now, the one positive is they haven't been hit by injuries. That's just who they are. I mean, everybody gets hurt, but, like, you know, Mineral Wells, again, we're not talking about Mineral Wells having to fight for a playoff spot, in my opinion, if it wasn't for the injuries this year. It was just one of those years for the Rams. The very fact that they still are in a chance, and a good chance, in my opinion, to win and make the playoffs just, again, speaks to resiliency of this program and how much they fight back. And that in and of itself is impressive as well. So hopefully we'll be meeting next week to talk playoffs. Again, if they do not make the playoffs, we will have a show, but it'll be at the end of the football season, kind of a recap just to talk about the whole year. But let's not worry about that. Let's worry about making the playoffs and talking next week right here on the Jack Powell Ford Mineral Wells Football Show.